There are so many different styles and ways to prepare beans that it can actually be overwhelming to think about. All you need to know are a few things to make a really good pot of beans. If I'm in a pinch, I'll totally use canned beans, but the fresh stuff, the homemade stuff, it's so much better. Here I have some great northern beans that have been soaking overnight. Pre-soaked beans are more tender and cook more evenly. Alright, so here I got some chicken and some beef stock, but you could totally just use water. Down across the streams. Be sure to use enough liquid to cover the beans by 2 inches or so. So you can cook a great pot of beans every time if you remember 3 things. You remember the salt, the fat, and some aromatics. Alright, so for our aromatics, I just have some tomatoes and onion, carrots, shallot, garlic, and this little bouquet of herbs that I just tied together, just what I had in my fridge. This is thyme, sage, and rosemary. For the fat, I just have some leftover smoked lard. This is just from when I made a ham a long time ago. It's been in the freezer. And some duck fat here. Pork and duck actually play quite well together, so I'm gonna use both. And as for the salt, we just have our good old-fashioned Diamond Crystal Kosher. It is really important to remember to season as you cook. That's gonna make the beans a lot more tastier. So in with a bit of salt, and then we're just gonna skim some of this scum off the top of the beans. The beans are just gonna release some scum as they sort of come up to temperature. Then it is in with our aromatic vegetables and the fat. I know most people probably don't have duck fat or smoked lard at the crib, so feel free to sub this out for olive oil if that's what you have. I'm talking a lot of fat. Like a lot. 2 giant globs worth. You're gonna want about a 1/2 inch to 1.5 inches of fat coverage on the top, and I lean towards fattier beans, so that's me. Season with more salt. Beans can take a lot of salt and a little bit of black peppy. Let that come to a simmer and skim any additional scum that comes to the top. And now is your time to taste the cooking liquid. If your bean cooking liquid tastes good, your beans are probably going to taste good too. Keep that in mind. It's a good rule of thumb to remember. After about an hour or so, your beans should be tendy, so remove those aromatics. Any bits of vegetables or herbs that are in the mix, don't worry about that. That's just going to add flavor to the overall beans. Okay, that's it. Now you can use the beans however you see fit. You can store them in their cooking liquid, or you can separate them out like this. All right, so this is a pretty cool cross section. We have our particles from the beans and other particles that were in the stock before we simmered it. Then we have our bulk of the stock here. This is our chicken and our beef stock that are now flavored and laced with aromatics. And then we have that smoked lard and that duck fat at the top paired to one. So this is sort of like a flavor powerhouse of cooking liquid. Do not throw this away. I like to cover it up, label it, freeze it. You could use it for braises, soup bases, chili, that sort of thing.